If you could do me a tiny itty-bitty little favor, please give this author some love. They are new to writing, and I hope that them hearing their stories narrated and seeing how much it's appreciated will motivate them to continue, because they have improved so much, and I would love to see what else they write. Where blood finds color, where impenetrable foliage blinds, where unimpeded forests thrive, where shouts echo to no one. The entire woods, it seemed, had fallen silent, as if holding its collective breath. The last fading shouts of my pursuers had recently ceased, but the fear that they had instilled in me had not. I stopped for the first time then, my lungs burning, 2 wet noodles for legs. It was my time to listen, my time to rest. Countless past warnings from friends and family now began to rush through my head. The worried glances from Mom as I excitedly traced a planned route on a map. Uncle Garrett's 38 special birthday present. It could even fit in your purse, he said earnestly, as if I carried a purse on a backpacking trip. Oh, how I wish I had brought that damn 38 now. Perhaps it was the dozens of successful previous treks that made me so careless. I told myself this time would be no different. This time was different, however. I think a small part of me knew that as I set out. I have never gone this far off trail in my life. I blocked out the anxious feelings I had felt in the car ride this morning, crisscrossing through the remote hollers and switchbacks that led me to this hell. Life is different out here, where the population is so small and so separated from outside influence, so liberated from law. The 3 men I stumbled upon shortly after setting off from my car could not have possibly looked more threatening. All of them imposing in height, wearing mossy oak camouflage from head to toe, dressed like the hunters they are. They could have been brothers. Well, at least the 2 big ones could have. It was their wiry-framed friend, however, who now concerns me. You see, I have always been an avid runner. If it had been the 2 big ones who crossed my path this morning, I would not feel the level of panic I do currently. They could not have given much chase themselves, but the 3rd one could run. There was no mistaking it in his form as he started towards me, shortening the gap between us with each massive stride. He was quiet when he first took off. His 2 big friends began hooting and hollering, cheering him on. He remained quiet as I dropped my heavy pack and began to flee. He was quiet while I took off into the thick brush. He is quiet now, I fear. I set out again at a slower pace, this time pausing to listen with each step, careful to avoid even the smallest of twigs snapping. The sight of a clearing brought me to a standstill. I crouched among the brush at its edge, slowly peering out. The forest is still, such a captive audience, and I was the performer. I listened for sounds of footsteps or heavy breathing. Nothing. I cautiously emerge into the clearing, and, to my horror, I am met with eye contact. The skinny one stands in the clearing's center, waiting. Such an unfortunate small amount of barren rock between us. A pause, a second chase. I feel the force of his tackle almost instantly, and then the shock of my flesh and bone impacting the uneven stone-filled ground. He did something for the first time then. He made a sound. An almost supernaturally loud whistle echoes as he sits upright, straddling my fallen body. His hands now come up to assist with a second call-out to his accomplices. Wiggle room. I wedged my hand into my pocket as I fell, reaching for the other Christmas gift from Uncle Garrett that I had thankfully thought to bring. his calls to his friends giving me the time I needed. Every orifice on my face now burns with a fury like I have never known, but I am on my feet. Regrettably, I hadn't predicted how much of the mace would travel downwards to me upon spraying him. But I know he took the brunt of it, and I can hear him behind me now. He was quiet before, but not anymore. It is difficult to traverse the woods with so much of one's eyesight compromised, even more so with my left leg in a bad state from the tackle. It is no time to self-loathe, however. It is only a matter of time until the cries of the skinny one could bring his bare-statured friends over. My nearly blind limps are hardly putting space between us, but I must move, so I do. Snail's pace, desperation, the involuntary capsaicin-derived tears morphing into a more honest type of cry, a hopeless kind of cry. I know I am moving at a pace nearly anything could catch now. Labored steps and blind reaches, constant impact with branches knock me off balance. The briars ruthlessly cut. I persist, fueled by the primal desire to survive. The high-pitched calls that were trailing me have fallen silent once again. My good luck continued, as after nearly half an hour of uninterrupted tears, I had finally cleared my eyes. I could see the gravel lane ahead, clear enough to recognize it as a public road. I hid, my body finally signaling its refusal to continue this chase. It's incredible how much pain adrenaline can mask, but as I sit and my heart rate slows, it now grows, unbearably so. What a dominant feeling pain is. So hardwired to the brain that its communication overwhelms all else, including rational thought. It was this lack of rationality that caused me to spill out onto the road as I heard the tires approaching. Maybe I just wanted it over one way or another. It was not a helping hand that approached. It was 3 familiar faces that emerged from that old pickup, one of them far more furious than the other 2. The slender one again moves towards me at a brisk walk. This time there is no need to run when your prey is so wounded. My flight instincts lead me to turn my back in a futile effort to flee. Just as before, I am met with rapid violence. The strike to the back of my head sat me down instantly. I rolled over to face my attacker one last time. His frame appeared even taller than it was from my low vantage point.
Fucking bitch,
he shouted as he swung again, fully separating me from consciousness. I squint as my eyes meet sunlight, the bumpy gravel road waking me, my throbbing head, a quick reminder of my current unfortunate situation. I am in the cab now, one of the big ones clutching me to his lap like some sort of bloody and bruised accessory. My waking and subsequent pleads bringing much amusement to both of the giants. Their laughter starkly contrasted by the utter hatred and threats spewing from the truck's skinny driver. Death is close for me, at least that's what I'm promised. I accepted it, too tired and beaten down to fight any further. We screech to a halt as we round a tightly wooded corner. A hush falls over the truck. My eyes follow their shocked gaze to the center of the road. A young woman stands, matted, bloody hair covering her face. I have never seen so much blood in my life. A constant flow emerges from dozens of open wounds covering her torso. Her once white dress now streaks of pink and red. The handle of a Bowie knife protruded from her chest. The one wound that seemed to not bleed. I told ya I seen her before. I told ya she ain't dead. The big one next to me cries out.
Shut your fucking mouth and let me think.
Without much deliberation, the truck screeches forward, tires peeling, accelerator to the floor. She doesn't even try to move as the pickup plows her over. It feels like a speed bump. And then the truck violently skids to a halt, a cloud of dust in its wake. With shotgun in hand, the skinny one hops out of the cab. My eyes follow him as he backtracks down the road. "Emmett!" one of the big ones shouts after him, releasing me from his grip. He makes no effort to stop me as I throw the driver's side door open, falling into a heap on the road. My instinct to flee abruptly stopped at the impossible sight of her on her feet, unburdened, seemingly by the collision moments ago. The skinny one shouts and raises his rifle, its barrel lifting to aim at the woman, but it doesn't stop there. He keeps lifting the barrel upwards towards the sky, seemingly against his will. Slowly he bends backwards at the waist, his feet anchored to the ground like the roots of a tree, miraculously keeping him upright as his spine curls. His back contorted in a way a young sapling does when it is pulled towards the ground, bending and bending and bending until something has to give. A thunderous crack ran out as his spine snapped. His feet, now untethered from earth, allowed his lifeless body to fall. I felt pulled back into reality at the sight and turned my attention to the two big ones. They stood only a few paces outside of the passenger door, motionless and fearful. I joined their gaze as she started towards them, her movements more of a float than it was a walk. She sang as she went, her voice haunting yet beautiful. It felt like an old folk song, the kind you have never heard, yet you know every goddamn word. Oh, I love you like no other, more than my sister or my brother. You know I love you like no other. My blood, it found its color when we met. The ground shook as the two big ones dropped to their knees simultaneously, and she finished her slow, measured trip towards them. With much labor, I climbed to my feet and walked towards them, compelled by an unknown force. Despite her horrifying appearance, I felt no threat, even as she reached down, pulling the knife from her chest. She looked at me as she presented me its handle. Her silent suggestion understood. I stared at the two mountains of men kneeling before me, and then at the knife, and then back again. After a short deliberation, I shook my head no. Even after all of this hell, I couldn't bring myself to take the weapon and exact my revenge. It seemed more fitting a job for her. She smiled at me, and then turned a rage-filled gaze towards the two kneeling at her feet. She raised her hand slowly, and with a snap of her fingers, both men's heads spun backwards with a violent crack. I watched them fall, dust rising and settling with their heavy impact. I glanced back in her direction and was met with an empty gravel road. It was a long, painful truck ride back to the nearest town, every bump in the road radiating through my body. I had no knowledge of the roads, yet it seemed I couldn't make a wrong turn. I wept as I made the turn into the first familiar paved road, the radio switching on as I accelerated. A familiar tune rang out through the static, this time with a wonderful arrangement of music to accompany it.